When you're ready, find your way to your yoga mat. Maybe you could lay down to start. Um, if you prefer to be seated or even standing, you can always choose your own adventure here, but I'm offering up permission to lay right down here. So you might come to Shavasana, corpse pose with your arms and legs outstretched, and feel free to take up as much space as you'd like. Maybe you keep your knees bent here and kind of tuck your tailbone under so that your low back flattens a little bit to the mat. You could let your knees come to the center line. That can feel really nice sometimes. If you prefer to be seated, just see about kind of perching up on your sitting bones and sitting with a nice tall spine. Keep finding your way until you feel about as comfortable as you think you can feel for now. Letting your arms find their way. If there are any little movements or stretches that you're just wanting as you settle in, you're always welcome to add on. And then when you do find comfort, consider closing your eyes if you like, or maybe just kind of softening your gaze. And while we're here, we'll do a body scan. It's just always a nice way to start class, checking in with your physical body. How are you feeling? Do you have any soreness or tightness or fatigue in your muscles or joints today? Can you feel into that at all? Is there anywhere in your body that feels expansive and healthy and balanced? Scan around and look for those nice balanced parts. And there, usually in my experience, there's other parts that are just kind of like numb or feeling as if they're kind of like offline. Like it's hard to kind of tune into them. They don't feel good or bad. They just kind of are neutral. So just checking in. You don't have to be too scientific about it. We're just getting a little baseline reading on your physical body. And moving on to your energetic body, just kind of reflect for a moment on your day. How much energy have you had to exert so far, or have you exerted so far in your day? What is your energy tank looking like? Is your tank almost empty, or are you full of energy? Where are you at energetically in this moment? And then reflecting on our emotional body, seeing if you can recall a couple different moments of emotion throughout your day so far, or right here in this moment. Can you identify one or two or three emotions perhaps that you're feeling? And if your current emotions feel kind of classically bad or negative, I invite you to consider that maybe, just maybe, there are no bad emotions. Maybe emotions just kind of give us clues and hints as to when we're coming out of balance with our activities, with our sleep cycles, with our food, like what can these emotions help inform for your day, for your moment? I'm just taking all of that information here and becoming kind of embodied. So, present in your physical body. I really like to do that by focusing on the breath. So, just become aware of the rise and fall of the belly or the chest or whatever is moving in your body when you breathe in and breathe out. Just keep following your physical movements as you breathe in and out. See if you can make your belly expand a little bit more with those inhales. See if you can release any holding, clenching, or tension with your exhales. Inhaling, your belly is expanding. The lungs have plenty of room for breath. Exhaling, just letting it be for now. And although, breathing usually is just moving in the torso region, let's see if we can create a sense of breathing with our whole bodies. Like when you inhale, can you inhale to the tips of your fingers and toes and the crown of your head? Can you involve your entire physical body just energetically or even just kind of wishfully thinking? And of course, exhaling when that comes. Can you inhale and enliven your whole body to the tips of the fingers and toes? And exhale as everything softens back down. Inhaling, feeling that aliveness. Exhaling and softening. So right now we're kind of upshifting just a little bit. Well, depending on your day, if you've had a frantic kind of day, maybe this is still downshifting, but we're kind of cultivating a little bit of energy here. We're feeling a sense of aliveness, a charge throughout the body with the inhales, relaxing on your exhales. Preparing, doing this meditation at the beginning, we're kind of preparing for our physical practice. So, kind of charging up that battery a little bit first. And then let's take 3 clearing breaths, either sighing or blowing out of your mouth. So, when you're ready, inhaling through your nose. Exhale, sigh, or blow out of the mouth. You could even make some sound with it if you'd like. And then when you're ready, starting to wiggle your fingers and toes. Go ahead and circle a little bit through your ankles and wrists. A couple times both ways. Continuing to awaken your body in ways that just feel kind of natural. Maybe you stretch your arms up and overhead, heading into a long body stretch. Maybe you yawn. Maybe you shake your hands or anything else that comes to mind. Long body stretch, though, we're reaching limbs in opposite directions. So if this is considered a long body stretch, let's do a wide body stretch. So moving your arms and legs out to the sides, kind of like star pose, just kind of stretching laterally or wide width of your mat. And then again, long body stretch, reaching your arms and legs in opposite directions. Okay, good. If you had any props under you, you might want to move them to the side for now. Let's stand the feet up on the mat. We'll go through breathing bridge pose a couple of times here. Just good to get those glutes and thighs working a little bit here. So let's press the hands down into the edges of the mat. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath your back so your chest kind of puffs up a little bit here. And with an inhale, start to lift those hip points up toward the sky, squeezing the glutes, feeling those thighs a little bit on the way up. You're welcome to stay right here for 3 breaths, or with your exhale, lower back down. So you're either flowing or holding. With your inhales, we lift back up. Exhale, lower down if you're flowing. One more time, inhale, lifting up. Let's stay lifted here for your exhale. One more breath in, option to lift those heels and rise up to your tippy toes. And exhale to lower your heels and lower your pelvis. Bring those knees in toward you, grabbing hold of your knees or shins. Feel a little bit of a stretch there as you hold. And if you like, take a little bit of free movement here, massaging out some pressure over the low back and the sacrum. And maybe the hips a little bit here too. Just taking some free movement that feels good to you. It's such a simple kind of movement, but I just love it. Top 5 poses, movements for me. All right, let's bring those feet back down to the ground. Your hands might come down by your sides or out wide or somewhere in between here. Let's press that right foot down and start to lift and straighten, or almost straighten that left leg up. The more you press down through your right foot, the easier I think it is to lift that left leg. You can always hold on behind your left leg if that helps you. And we'll circle out the left ankle a couple times, both ways. Remembering that kind of fun little saying, motion is lotion. We are kind of lubricating that ankle joint here. Maybe if you wiggle your toes a little bit, you can kind of move, get some motion and lotion in those toes as well. Okay. Take a big breath in here. And start to lower that left leg down to the ground, keeping the leg or the ankle flexed. Then when you get down to the bottom, let's exhale, point your toes and lift back up. So that whole exhale, we're taking back up to the top. Inhale, flex and lower. Exhale, point and lift. And you choose how far you're going here. You can inhale and lower just like halfway. Exhale and lift back up. You could hold on when you get to the top. Just feel free to make it your own here. Let's go a couple more times. We're inhaling to lower. Exhale, point and lift. Maybe one more time if you got one more round. Inhale, flex and lower. Exhale, point and lift. Once you get to the top, bend that left knee and cross the left ankle just behind your right knee here, figure 4. Feel free to stay right here if this feels like a good amount of stretching sensation happening through the lower half of your body. You can always add on a little extra by pressing your left hand into your left knee, kind of opening up that left hip a little bit more. So good. You can also kind of rock your knees, your legs side to side a little bit to get some different angles going there with your hip opener. If you'd like more of a piriformis stretch, it's kind of a little bit different than what you're feeling now. You can reach to interlace your fingers behind that right thigh or on top of your right shin, just as long as you can keep your shoulders and your head comfortably down on the ground. We don't want to cause any extra stress or reaching through the upper body, so just make sure that's comfy. If you've got that interlaced finger situation going on, you might feel this a little bit more through that piriformis, which is kind of a deep, kind of located deep in that left glute, through the low back. And you're just enjoying a few moments here, breathing, adding on any little movements that you like. See if you can find some sort of balance here between effort and ease, per usual. Don't try too hard if you can help it. And that takes a lot of practice, knowing and being able to notice. Oh, my shoulders are really tense here. Oh, I'm squinting really hard with my eyes. Just kind of smooth those things out when you find them. Don't be too hard on yourself. Be kind. That's the whole point. We're learning and practicing being a friend to our bodies. Okay. When you feel you've had enough, if that right foot was lifted, go ahead and lower it down. Bring those arms back out for support. Lift and straighten that left leg one last time. And then bend the left knee and set your foot on the ground. Just take a moment with both feet on the floor, just to notice how it feels. To me, it's like my left hip feels really light. My right hip feels really dense and tight and stagnant. I wonder how it feels for you. All right, moving along. We are pressing that left foot down a lot as we begin lifting and straightening, or almost straightening that right leg. Remember, the more you press down with the left foot, the easier I think it is to keep that right foot lifted. Circle around the right ankle a couple times. Your knee could always be bent here too, or you can hold on behind your thigh. Your call. Wiggle in the toes a little bit too. Motion is lotion. That really sticks with me. Okay. When you've had enough of that ankle and toe movement, let's start our lifts and lowers. At the top, we're flexing, so we're pulling the toes back toward ourselves. Inhale and lower that right leg down with a straight leg. Exhale, point your toes, lift it back up. Let's do that a few times. Just go with your own breath here. We're inhaling, flexing the ankle and lowering. We're exhaling as we point and lift. Just go as many times as it feels good to you. We kind of want to be strengthening here, so maybe you feel just slightly tired by the time you're done here, but no need to push too hard. When the time comes for you to move along, we're finding figure 4 by bending that right knee and placing your right ankle just behind your left knee. Even if you go right for the quote-unquote deepest version of this pose, I invite you to linger in these first options a little bit, because there's always a little something there in each variation. So of course, staying here if you'd like. If it's already feeling like too much with your knee just crossed here, you can kind of step that left foot out toward the top of your mat so there's less of a bend in your knee. Alternatively, you could kind of bring your left heel closer to your left glute for a little more stretch. At some point, you might press your right hand into your right knee, kind of opening up through that right hip a little bit more. I like to find just a very subtle rocking from side to side. Just feels like you can really get some different angles that feel really good. And of course, if you like that third option, you can reach to interlace the fingers behind that left leg, that left thigh, or if you're super flexible, on top of that left shin, just so long as your shoulders and head can rest on the floor and you're not causing yourself excess stress just to make a shape. So if your left foot is lifted and you are clasping the hands behind the thigh, just noticing where you're feeling this. Noticing if you can kind of detect the piriformis. Maybe look it up later so you can see a map on the body of where it is. And checking for that sense of balance somehow. So if you're over efforting in ways, maybe dialing it down a little bit, smoothing things over. If it feels too easy and you're not feeling a stretch, maybe you do need a little more effort. Maybe you need to find another variation here. Maybe not. Just about one more breath. And then coming back to the center, let's start to lift and straighten or almost straighten that right leg up. And then bend the right knee and set it down on the ground. All right, we're gonna come up to a seat here. So if you like to rock and roll up and down, you sure can. Otherwise, turning onto either side and then pressing your way up to a seat. Right away, though, we're heading towards hands and knees for cat and cow. As always, if you're on a hard surface or your joints want a little extra cushion or love, you can bring a blanket or a pillow underneath your knees. You could bring your hands up onto blocks. That'll even make it a little bit less pressure through the hands. Your choice. Hands will be below the shoulders, knees below your hips. With your inhale, start to lower your belly, lift your tailbone and your gaze, finding cow pose. With your exhale, rounding up through your spine, tucking your chin, tucking your tailbone, pressing your hands into the floor or blocks, cat pose. Inhale, cow, belly lowers, gaze lifts. Exhale, cat, rounding up through your spine. You can even do this seated if you happen to be seated here, just getting that kind of bending action going through the spine. A couple times through here, we're warming things up, we're stretching. And then when you're ready, let's head back to extended child's pose. Our knees will come out wide toward the edges of the mat, big toes touching behind you. Go ahead and sink your seat toward your heels. If that feels okay, you can always stay way lifted here too and just bring your forearms down to the ground or reach your hands out toward the top of your mat. But if you do have that range of motion through the knees, maybe you sit back a little farther. And again, finding that spot that feels right. Maybe forearms down on the floor here at first. I kind of like to shift a little bit side to side to just get really kind of like snuggled in and then lower down, but hope you are able to find your way there. Reaching through the shoulders a little bit here. We're feeling some opening through the back. Take a couple of nice big breaths and see how your breath interacts with this shape, this pose. And you are welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. We'll add a little side bend on here first before moving along. So we'll walk our hands over toward the right edge of the mat and then go ahead and sink back down so that you're feeling kind of a little bit of a side bend here. Maybe you can feel some stretch and opening through that left shoulder or armpit area. Hopefully we want to be getting down into the left side of the low back. It's called the quadratus lumborum, the QL for short. That is something we really want to loosen up here if we can. So see if you can create sensation through that low left side of the back. And then switching sides when you're ready, hands walking over toward the left edge of your mat and then pulling back down. Seeking that sensation through the QL here on the right side. There's one on the left, one on the right, of course. And we're just seeing if we can tap into that, get a little stretch going. And then come back to the center, lift on up to tabletop. And then if you have something under your knees, you might choose to move that away for now. Let's find our first downward facing dog, grabbing those blocks if you like to use them. Hands on the blocks or on the floor. Let's curl those toes under. Just for a moment before heading to downward dog, curl your toes under. Just kind of like sit back a little bit. We're going to stretch the bottom of the feet here. And if you have plantar fasciitis, it might feel extremely tight or sore. So just be easy on it. Maybe come back up. We're just kind of tucking the toes under a little bit and then sitting back slightly, stretching out the bottoms of the feet. Take 2 more breaths. One more breath here. Feels quite intense. All right, come back up, tabletop, and then find your way to downward dog. Pushing into the hands, feel all of your fingertips gripping. Reach up through the tailbone. Find your breath. Maybe pedaling your legs out here, bending and straightening opposite knees a couple of times. You can always kind of hold or do it together even, bending, straightening. One more breath in. One more breath out. Inhale, bend your knees, look up to your hands. Exhale, step or walk your way to the top. Ragdoll, forward fold. Your feet can be about hip width distance apart or way out wide. Having at least a little bend of your knees. Let your upper body be kind of loose here. Maybe you find a little bit of swaying movement side to side. Just make sure you're breathing. Maybe nod your head yes and no a couple of times. Just like a rag doll though, where the upper body is nice and loose. And then bending your knees, walk your hands up your legs as you slowly rise up to stand. Take all the time you want or need on your way up, and we'll just have a little shake here. So shaking the arms a little bit, maybe lifting and lowering your heels and getting that nice kind of deep bounce going through the muscles of your body. You could actually jump a couple times if that feels comfortable for you. Shaking out. It's just kind of some freestyle movement here. So just a little shaking, a little bouncing. Keep on going for just a bit longer. Shaking and bouncing. Whew. I think it just feels so good. Okay. We're slowing it down here, coming back to a comfortable standing position. Take a look at your feet. Just make sure they feel comfortable and grounded there. With an inhale, let's reach the arms around and up, but do it nice and slow, like you're just savoring every little second along the way. And then exhale, circle your arms back around and down. Nice. Let's do that again. We're inhaling around and up. Just savor it if you can. And then exhale down and around. All right, we're going to add on this time. Inhale, bringing it up. At the top, just breathe like normal and interlace your fingers and then press the palms of your hands up toward the sky. So again, interlacing, flipping them up toward the sky, and then just reach up. Maybe you sway a little bit from side to side, getting a little more of that side bending action going. Maybe at some point taking some kind of circles, just again kind of freestyling here. Circles or side bends. And then we're gonna bend the right elbow, like keep your hands interlaced, but just bend the right elbow and kind of pull that left hand behind your head a little bit here. See how that goes. You might side bend with it, so we're side bending toward the right a little bit. When you've had enough, come back up to the center, reach the hands high, palms facing up toward the sky, and then bend that left elbow and kind of pull that elbow down toward the side. Just kind of staying lengthened here for a moment, and then side bending into it if that feels good and comfortable on your spine. And then come back up to the center, reach the arms high. Take an exhale as you let those hands come down by your sides. Shake it out a little if you'd like. Come on up to the top of your mat. take a look at your feet, again, making sure they're comfortable and grounded. With your inhale, reach your arms around and up, looking up as your palms join. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Arms are reaching wide. We're hinging at the hips and then releasing the hands toward the floor. Inhale, halfway lift with a half tuck of your chin so the back of your neck feels long. And exhale, lower your hands down to blocks if you have them, or the floor if you can reach. Step just your right foot back. We're not going to lower the knee. We're going to keep the knee lifted. Just bend into your left knee. So we're kind of in this like knee lifted runner's lunge position. And if that feels a little too intense, you can bring that right knee down anytime and just kind of hang out here for a moment, getting that nice stretch through the legs, a little bit through the hamstring on that left leg, or a little strengthening there. Great. We're going to walk this around to Skandasana, side lunge. So if you have blocks, bring them with you, or walking the hands all the way around to the long edge of the right to the right. And then lunging down into that left knee. And you could stay up here and bring your hands to to your right knee. You could be up here. So we're on the right knee, or you can lower down with your hands on blocks, turning the left toes up toward the sky. Just make sure it feels good. If it's too deep, come back up a little bit and just kind of lunge over toward that right leg. You can keep your hands down on your blocks, or kind of come to a little bit of a balancing pose with your hands up on your knee. Skandasana. Some people call it surfer pose. All right, let's make our way back up to the top of the mat. So we're coming up a little bit, walking those blocks up to frame that left foot. We'll step the left foot back to meet the right in our high plank. And right away, lower your knees, move the blocks to the side, and lower your chest down. We'll do 3 rounds of our baby cobra, pressing the tops of your feet down into the mat so much that those knees start popping up. Your glutes are feeling activated. With your inhale, lifting your head and chest, using the strength of your spine, the muscles around your spine and your core. And then exhale, lower back down. We're inhaling to rise up to baby cobra. And exhaling to lower down. One more time, inhale, baby cobra. Stay here if you'd like for your exhale. With your inhale, press your way up, tabletop. Exhale to child's pose. We're here for one big deep breath. Inhale, sending the breath all the way down to the sacrum, that very low part of the back. And breathing out. Inhale, rise up, tabletop. Curl those toes under, and exhale to downward dog. 3 breaths here. Make sure your fingers are activated as you inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last breath in. Last breath out. Inhale, bend your knees, look up toward the top of your mat. With your exhale, step just the right foot forward. And if you need help, grab those blocks and just kind of step your right foot as far forward as you can. We're bending into that right knee. We're going to kind of stay here and have this nice hip opener effect in this kind of lifted runner's lunge. You can bring that left knee down to the mat if you like, or kind of oscillate between the two. And if that Skandasana side lunge was just a little too much or too confusing or something on the first side, you can certainly stay here. If you want to come with me to that surfer pose, we are walking the hands around that left edge of the mat, pivoting on the toes, and then squatting down toward that left knee. Again, you can just bend a little bit and have your hands up on that left knee and stay a little more lifted, or you can get nice and deep. We're turning the right knee and the right toes up toward the sky. See where you feel this, hopefully a little bit through the right inner leg, inner thigh, a little bit of the groin. Where else? Maybe it's a mental challenge. We'll have about one more breath here and one more breath out. Make your way back to the top of your mat, walking your hands or your blocks around to frame up the right foot. And then step your right foot back to your high plank. Right away, lowering your knees and lowering your chest. Moving those blocks to the side. This time we're going to try Sphinx pose. So the feet will be a little bit wider behind you. We're going to rise like we would in baby cobra, but then plant the forearms down on the ground. And a nice way to lessen the big back bend that you're feeling would be to add a blanket underneath your belly or underneath your hips, or a little bit higher than your hips so that you have a little bit less space to be bending into. You can also really notice that if you engage through your core and kind of press down through the pubic bone, you can like protect your low back a little bit more. You're almost kind of like rounding up versus just kind of dumping into the back. So just get a little bit of engagement through your low core, pressing down. And we're just pressing the forearms down as well. So we want to kind of keep lifted through the shoulders and the head. And then I invite you to let your right ear come toward your right shoulder. Eventually dip your chin down toward the center of your chest. Keep pressing down through the forearms. And then allow your left ear to come toward the left shoulder. Just spend a little time playing with that motion here. A little bit of a neck stretch. There's a lot going on when we're in our Sphinx pose, a lot to think about. The low core engaged, the forearms pressing down so that the shoulders are active. We're still trying to find some amount of ease in it as well. We're quite activated though. And when you're ready, start to lower back down. Find your way to crocodile pose with your hands or your fists stacked. And then let your forearm or your forehead rest on top. Release any tension through the glutes. Let your heels splay out to the sides. Just find a moment of chill. One more breath in and out here. And then plant your hands next to the chest. Press your way on up to tabletop. Curl your toes under. And then find your way to our last downward dog today. Hands active, shoulders active. We're stretching the back of the legs. If you have tight hamstrings or any kind of Achilles tendon stuff, you can always keep your knees super bent here and work more on lengthening through the spine. One last breath in. One last breath out. Bend your knees, look up toward your hands, but with your exhale, walk your hands to the back of your mat so you end up in a forward fold at the back. With an inhale, halfway lift, half tuck of your chin, so you're just looking straight down at the floor. Exhale, folding forward with a bend of your knees. Plant your feet down strongly with your inhale. Reach your arms around and up, coming all the way up to stand. Join those hands overhead. Exhale, lower your hands down to your heart center. Take a few moments, a few breaths to cultivate a sense of homecoming to your heart center, a place of balance, a timeless space, somewhere that underneath all the chaos of the world, there is a hint at least of peace, of continuity, of strength. Spend some time cultivating that sense now here at Heart Center. And throughout the rest of your week, I invite you to come to Heart Center sometime throughout your week. Just see what it's like when you do that, not in the middle of a yoga class, but just in the middle of a day. Let's take a sighing breath here, inhaling through your nose. Sigh to release. Blinking your eyes open as you're ready, letting your hands come down by your sides. We'll do a little bit of balancing today, and we'll do tree pose. So find your footing, maybe bending and straightening your knees a couple of times. And eventually, let's do a playful version of tree pose because we kind of don't get this side to side movement going a lot in yoga. So just taking a big step over to the right, slide your left foot over to the right, and then take a big step over to the left and slide your foot over to the left. So we're just stepping side to side a couple of times. I kind of like to move my arms with it, but you can do what you want. You're just kind of moving side to side. Those hip muscles here are really working as we move our legs out to the side. And now we're going to add on kind of like a stop. And it can look like tree pose. I kind of was doing like a ballet looking pose here. And the point isn't to be perfect. So it might, once you kind of fall out of it, just see if you can step on over to the other side and pull your foot up, maybe to do that kickstand position with your heel there and your left toe on the floor. And when you're ready, just switching back over to the other side. And it might take a little bit of time to get to a tree pose looking position as you catch your balance, or it might be a little bit easier. Just keep going whenever you feel like switching sides. I luckily have walls on either side. I can kind of catch myself if I go too far. And we're just having like a little bit of fun with it, working on balancing, working on not being perfectionists. A couple more times. If you can remember which side you started on, just making sure at some point you end on the other side. And there's no real rules other than at some point we're balancing on one foot, and at some point we're balancing on the other foot. You can do whatever you want with your hands and arms. You can make it kind of theatrical if you want to. It could be a bit of a, dance. Okay. Take your time with that, but when you're ready, stepping both feet down, just another little shake through the arms, and we're heading down to the floor. So, however you like to get there, maybe a little bend of the knees, maybe a momentary squat if you like, eventually lowering yourself to your seat and then to your back. We'll pull those knees in and find another couple of moments of free movement, rocking some weight around your low back by circling the knees or kind of rocking a little bit. Okay. And then we'll bring the feet down to the floor. Arms coming out wide. We'll take a little twist here to end. Let's do eagle leg twist today. We'll pick that left leg up and cross it over your right. Not like figure four. This is more like you're sitting in a chair, so it's thigh to thigh, knee to knee. Picking up the pelvis, scooting way over toward that right edge of the mat, and then toward the left edge of the mat, and then allowing your knees to start twisting over toward the right. And you can always just stay put here, or maybe start to turn and look toward the left, the opposite way that your knees are reaching and twisting. Sometimes eagle legs are a bit too much. You could always uncross your legs and just stack knees on top of each other. Sometimes it does feel nice to have the figure four legs. So edit away however you choose. Experimentation is great. Okay. Take your time coming back up to center. Eventually, we're just going to switch sides. So, uncrossing your legs, scooting the pelvis back to the center, and then crossing your right leg over the left, thigh to thigh, knee to knee to start. And then scooting the hips over toward the left or the right edge of the mat this time, and lowering the knees toward the left. So, the way you've crossed your leg, that's the way you are twisting. Again, you might stay right here or start to look toward the right, away from the knees. Stick with the breath, even though it's kind of restricted in our twists. And as you consider heading towards final rest, notice if there are any last movements, poses, or beyond that you'd like in your own timing coming out of this twist. Moving into those last movements if there's anything else calling to you. And it doesn't have to make sense to your thinking brain. You might just let your body kind of move and see what comes of it. And eventually, go ahead and find a final resting position that feels nice and cozy. Maybe grabbing a pillow for under your head or something for under your knees. It can be kind of nice to have like a little bend in your knees. So I'm rolling up a blanket for under my knees today. Go ahead and see how nice you can be to yourself here, how cozy you can get your body, get your mind. Could be very similar to how you started in Shavasana or constructive rest pose. If it feels restful to be seated, or sometimes like standing and leaning up against a wall can feel like an interesting meditative space to be in. So the sky's the limit, per usual. As you arrive in stillness or somewhat stillness, you might enjoy working with the visual of kind of resting in your charger, as if you were like a phone or a. Do you remember how like cordless phones would have like a rest? It would just fit perfectly in and charge on up. What would your charger look like? Where would those electrodes gotta be that would charge you up? Would they be in your heels? Pretending they don't, they don't hurt or anything. Just where does the energy want to flow in to you? And then working with your breath, your inhales, bringing in this charge to, fill up your battery a little bit here, prepare you for what's next. And your exhales, releasing anything that feels like releasing. Maybe it's just your breath. Maybe there's more to the story. Inhale and feel that charge. Could be subtle. And then once it starts to feel a little more natural, you don't have to think about it too hard. Just kind of imagining you're there in your charger. Whether or not you remember to think about the charge, that charge is coming in. This rest is filling a little bit of that battery of yours. And the energy knows where to go in your body, which parts, which muscles, which organs need a little extra boost. So feel no need to be consciously directing this energy. Just trusting that your breath, your body knows how to nourish itself. Just breathing and trusting that this rest is charging you back up, even just a bit. Feel free to stay and extend your rest as long as you have time for. Feel free to just ignore the rest of this outro if you want to stay. At some point, you'll hopefully feel like reawakening again, and let's just choose to do it in a soft, kind way with a little wiggle of the fingers and toes. A little movement through your face somehow, maybe opening and closing your jaw, swallowing, yawning, and moving in into a long body stretch if that feels nice, like you're just waking up from a big glorious nap. And then rolling on to either side, finding the fetal position and pausing there. Take at least a round of breath here, just fully in this side lying pose. And then, as you're ready, use the help of your hands and arms to come on up to a comfortable seat. We'll bring hands together at heart center and closing the eyes if that feels okay for you, or just kind of looking at the floor. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may our own thoughts, words, and actions somehow contribute to that happiness and freedom for all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Together, bringing thumbs up to third eye center. With a little gesture of gratitude, if it feels right to you, let's take a bow forward now. Peace. Thank you, everyone.